What are you doing? Ellie, be careful.
I'm climbing a dinosaur!
Yeah, I can see that. Just don't die falling off of one.
Look at me! I'm on a motherfucking dinosaur!
Whoa, what are you doing? Don't jump. Just climb down.
Ah!
Hey!
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, wasn't it awesome?
The Last of Us originally came out way back in 2013 and was universally loved by critics and fans. The first game featured storytelling that the gaming world just hadn't seen up to that point. A dark world that had more bad people than good, that were selfish and only looked out for themselves. It was a grim look at what the end of the world could actually be like. Our main characters of Joel and Ellie formed a father-daughter relationship as the game went on, even if they had a bit of a tumultuous start. The Last of Us Part 2 starts 5 years after the original game, after Joel has lied to Ellie that her immunity to the virus is not actually a cure to save humankind. This game starts with a lot of baggage from the prequel, which is fine considering the deep narrative that one was going for. But, just as the first game had a rocky start to Joel and Ellie's relationship, so too does Part 2. This will be a spoiler-free review, where we will primarily be talking about gameplay, graphics, audio design, animations, and overall feelings of the narrative without going into specifics. So, let's jump right into it with gameplay. Gameplay is by far one of the most important aspects of a game. I mean, that's not some sort of philosophical statement, it's just what makes a game worth playing. And Naughty Dog knocked it out of the park with gameplay. The Last of Us Part 2 keeps all of our favorite aspects of gameplay from the original, while adding enough improvements that it took an already winning formula and just made it even better. The gameplay is like a sandwich. At a basic level, they're fantastic, but given the ability to add extra items and condiments, it takes an already solid foundation and transforms it into something that can be enjoyed on a whole other level. What I mean by that is, Ellie is incredibly more mobile than Joel. She can climb, giving her a whole new perspective of areas and new ways to sneak up on enemies, be them human or infected. Ellie also has the ability to go prone and hide in tall grass, a staple of modern video games. This again allows Ellie to get in close on enemies without being spotted and eliminate them. The reason these additions, as small as they may be, are so impactful is because the first game had you pretty much planted on the ground. This added level of verticality adds dimensions to a game that already had dimensions to the storytelling. They complement each other perfectly. The game puts you into some pretty intense situations and gives you the freedom of tackling it on your own terms. If you want to be silent threat, luring enemies into secluded areas away from their companions, you can do that. You can wait for an enemy to branch off from their group, toss an item in a corner to further the distance, and sneak up behind them to take them out with the unlimited shivs that the game has. This is a welcome addition because not having to worry about your knife breaking now makes stealth a much more viable option. Alternatively, you can go into the same situation, guns blazing. At one point, I placed a proximity mine near a wall, and then retreated to a safe distance. I spotted an enemy to the left with a dog, and an enemy to the right looking for me. I tossed a brick near the mine, and the solo enemy started towards it. I fired a single bullet at the enemy to the left with the dog, and as soon as the shot was fired, the other enemy tripped the mine, and that was the end of them. Of course, this alerted everyone to the general location to where I was, and I had just as much fun taking them out Rambo style as I did being sneaky snake. There are plenty of infected to go around in this post-apocalyptic game. We have our standard fare from the first game, with a few new additions. The new additions are truly terrifying, but don't make many appearances throughout my time with it. There is an infected called the Stalker, which was in the first game just a couple of times, and in the DLC that followed. But in the sequel, they make many more appearances. These infected gave me some of my biggest scares throughout the game, regardless of being relatively easy to dispose of. They scurry throughout abandoned hospitals, parking garages, and any other dimly lit place that is sure to give you a fright. These infected don't show up when you use your listen mode, and can easily get the drop on you. Stalkers are a lot like cockroaches. When you see one, you're terrified that there may be more. You can't see them, so you are always on edge that one may be lurking behind something. The only way to solve this problem is to hunt them down and terminate them. The Shambler is a new addition to the game as well. It is an evolution of the Bloater. From reading the official description of both infected, there are not many changes between the two classes. They are both hulking and slow. One difference is that when the Shambler is killed, it releases a final burst of spores into the air. This can cause some damage over time effects that could kill you depending on where your health was in the first place. It's not confirmed either, but the Shambler also seemed a little bit faster than the Bloater, which definitely adds an element of fear to this walking tank. There are also instances where you must fight multiple Shamblers in a room, along with Stalkers and other infected. This makes for some of the game's more intense and white-knuckle moments. There is no denying that The Last of Us Part 2 is a graphical behemoth. All around, this game is a technical masterpiece. When walking up to an abandoned TV station, the light rays that beamed through the surrounding trees had me in awe. The way objects realistically reflect off of puddles, all the way down to the smallest of details, like the way Ellie's backpack sways with her while she runs. Not just that, but she's got some keychains hanging on her backpack as well, and those all move on their own. So much attention to detail. Naughty Dog has a world-renowned motion capture studio, and they definitely put it to good use here. The facial animation is so accurate that I legitimately forgot that I was playing a video game and not watching a movie at some points. Something that has always looked weird and robotic is kissing in video games. Just look at the Mass Effect scenes, or Heavy Rain. It just looks so weird, like a child playing with their toys and they just mash their faces together. Naughty Dog managed to make an on-screen kiss look realistic. I know that's something that most people won't care about, but it was something that was immediately noticeable to me. As gruesome as it sounds, the death animations are also top-notch. The way a character clutches at their throat, or the way an infected gets blown to bits. Again, it's all very morbid, but that is what Naughty Dog was going for, to make you feel uncomfortable for your actions, and that is reinforced with the excellent animation and motion capture. I played through the majority of The Last of Us Part 2 with headphones on that had surround sound. I'm really glad I did, because I feel like it definitely gave me an advantage with hearing where some of the infected were hiding, or when a human enemy was talking to one of their companions. When I was in a room filled with infected, the audio design was incredible. The clickers are infamous for using echolocation to locate their prey, so they make this loud clicking and groaning sound. The sound is so loud and guttural that it would make me stop in my tracks when I heard it. It was like a clicker was right in my ears at all times. The Shamblers, as I mentioned earlier, are these large, tank-like infected that slowly make their way through an area. Their sounds are so much deeper and primordial. They sound like an unknown beast from the depths of Tartarus has emerged to come and kill you. So much of this game is built around being quiet and not drawing too much attention to yourself, so those big, bombastic sounds really pack a punch. Something as simple as smashing a window to get into an abandoned building is necessary, but also terrifying because you don't know what might be lurking around. The story of Last of Us Part 2 is a bit polarizing. If you look on Metacritic, which aggregates scores from all over the internet, critics love it, but fans hate it. Now, this game did suffer from some hateful review bombing, where people go and give it the lowest score possible just to be a troll on the internet, but I won't get into that here, that's for another time. I think the overall narrative that Naughty Dog was going for was incredible, and they achieved their end goal, to make me feel miserable for the actions of my characters. I do feel like the game went on for a bit too long. I understand why the game was so drawn out, to give the complete perspective of everyone involved. If they didn't do that, then it would have come across strange when they cut one character's arc short. The first Last of Us averaged about 17 hours to beat if you went and explored. Part 2 averages about 28 hours with the same level of exploration. I know it's only 10 or so more hours, but when this game is built to stress you out, to make you feel uncomfortable, those extra 10 hours feel like torture. The Last of Us Part 2 is an incredible journey that gives us a peek into a post-apocalyptic nightmare, and how the world hopelessly tries to continue to push on. The world is dark, and the characters are morally gray for the most part, leaving you with a sense of unease. Naughty Dog needs to be commended on their ability to make people feel such intense emotions for characters that don't actually exist, for a world that isn't real. If you finish The Last of Us Part 2 feeling like someone punched you in the stomach repeatedly for 28 hours, then the team at Naughty Dog did their job.